Yes, can I help you?
Mrs. Allen, this is Richard Allen.
Yes, that's right.
I represent a firm of solicitors, madam. The firm of Blunden, Claverton, and,
I suppose it's about the rent.
Oh, no, indeed, no, madam. I'm no debt collector. I am a partner in the firm of Blunden, Claverton, and... what on earth is that young man's name? Well, no matter now. The important thing is that the news I bring will, I am sure, prove entirely welcome to you. At least I trust it will prove entirely welcome to you, Mrs.
Okay, ready to go. Go.
Hello and welcome. Welcome and hello. This is Wait, You Haven't Seen? It's a show where we talk about movies. Specifically, we talk about a movie at least one of us had never seen before. I'm your host, Travis, a.k.a. TV's Travis. This is episode number 362. And our movie this week from 1972 is The Amazing Mr. Blunden. And here to talk with me about it, because he had seen it before and wanted me to, it's Hammond Chamberlain. Hammond, how are you?
Hey, Travis, how are you? I'm so glad you actually wanted to see this movie with me.
So, before I talk about the movie and what I knew about it, what's your history with The Amazing Mr. Blunden? You brought this to me. So when did you first see it? And how did you find out about it?
Okay, we lived at Rhein-Main Air Force Base in Frankfurt, Germany.
Okay.
I was in fourth grade, and they used to be Saturday matinees that we'd walk down from our apartment down to the movie theater.
Sure.
And it was like a Saturday afternoon, and I paid my 50 cents or $1 or whatever it was. I got my popcorn and my gummy bears, and I sat down and I watched this weird history time travel ghost story movie. And I loved it from that very moment. And then I walked home and tried to explain the plot to my mom, and she acted like I was high, because a fourth grader trying to explain this plot is hard.
An adult trying to explain this plot would have some trouble. Then you factor in it's a fourth grader and how fourth graders tell stories. I can imagine.
So I continued to kind of fixate on it, and finally we figured out the name of it, because I didn't remember the name. I just went because it was Saturday.
Right.
And we finally figured out the name, and then I ended up having to buy an early code-free, region-free DVD player so I could order it from England. And then I got a code-free Blu-ray player. Now I have a 4K version of it, and I've reached out and I've interviewed one of the people who are in the movie for be on the playlist during the pandemic. I got to know her, and we're continued to be in contact. And this movie, it ranks still to this day as one of my top 3 movies of all time. If I could get a one sheet for it, it would be over on the wall somewhere.
That's an awesome story. So you mentioned this to me. I don't remember when it was, but I had it on my list for a little while. And it was one of those that it wasn't available anywhere. And so we kind of put a pin in it, like, well, if this ever shows up somewhere, or, you know, if you get a digital copy of it, something like that. But before you told me about it, I had never heard the words Amazing Mr. Blunden in order. Like, I just didn't know. It wasn't on my radar whatsoever. Film from 1972, and it was just not something that I knew about. Like, it didn't hit that level of things like Bedknobs and Broomsticks or some of those other movies where they had some recognition. I never saw it popping up on, like, lists anywhere on the internet or anything like that. So you mentioned it, and I thought, all right, we'll check it out when it's available. And it kind of sat for a little while. And then I noticed one day I was kind of going through my list. And I like to do that periodically and just check and see, is there movies that maybe I had on the list I forgot about, or stuff that I have covered now. And I saw this. So I threw it onto Just Watch, and it popped up on Amazon Prime. And so I told you about it, and you came back with like, yeah, don't watch that version though. It's missing something. Let me get you a copy. And so we ended up working it out. And, I didn't really know what to expect with this. I'm going to say that right away. So as it unfolded, I was starting at first. I was like, oh, I can kind of see where this is going. And then I was like, wait a minute. No, I'm confused. Oh, now we've gone back in time. Like, it's already a period piece, but now it goes back in time within the period piece. And I had a great time with this. I really enjoyed this movie.
I am so glad. Again, I can tell you, I feel like I have a secret, because every time I tell someone about this movie who hasn't seen it, they always come back with it. Holy cow. Not only did you introduce me to a movie that's sweet and kind and fun, but I mean, I'm the guy whose favorite movie of all time is Army of Darkness. This is so far out of the predictable range of Hammond movies.
This is true. Yes. If you sat me down and said, and had me name 100 movies that you would like, even if I knew about this movie, it wouldn't have been on that list. It just wouldn't have. But there's this charm to it. And I did just watch Bedknobs and Broomsticks for the first time fairly recently. And that I had a very similar experience with that. Like I knew it existed. That one I knew existed. And I knew Angela Lansbury was in it. And that was kind of all I knew. And I really had a great time with that. And this one was that same vein where I sat down, I start watching it, and I'm like, okay, all right, so we get some Victorian era, and it's a little ghost story. Cool. You know, I'm getting like it's not the turning of the screw, but like it was giving me that feeling of the secluded.
There is a little turn of the screw happening in this story.
Yeah.
Because it's ghost kids.
Yep. Ghost kids, remote house. And that was another thing too, as I was watching this, it was reminding me of the fact that like English horror and horror of that era centered a lot on stuff that would happen in the cities, because that was where like London was for a long time kind of dangerous, and it was where, you know, during the Industrial Revolution it totally changed, and it was dangerous for people, and that's where a lot of that horror got concentrated. But then there was this move to like, oh, it's horror out in the outskirts. It's that isolation. And like that was knocking around in my head as I was watching this, but this isn't a horror movie at all.
No, not at all. There's a modern movie called The Others.
Yes.
That I feel like whoever wrote that has watched this, because there's a feeling of that isolation and that kind of taking a story and then turning it sideways that The Others does, that this does.
That's a great comparison, because this started off, and as soon as like we have the whole opening in what looked like Baker Street to me. That first shot.
It's what Tim Burton called horror movie London.
Yes. And like that first shot, and so I watched this movie twice. And the second time is when I actually picked up on that very, very first opening shot was the family leaving their home. I was like, oh, okay. Now it makes more like, it just didn't register with me the first time. But they're leaving their home, and then we cut to this street at night with the market and this, you know, old gentleman walking down it. I love that look of just like this dark street market and everybody talking. The one thing with this that I did notice, and this was my filmmaker brain kicking in, like my film buff brain, was the Steadicam wasn't invented yet. And you can tell because there's handheld stuff, but it does give it that gothic horror feel of like almost stalker vision, because that's handheld and it's very shaky.
It creates a level of anxiety, and I'm not sure if that was on purpose or not.
I don't know, but it does. You're very, very right. And from that moment, then he gets to the apartment, and of course it's a basement level apartment. Those are always, it's kind of shorthand for like, these are poor people. And he goes inside, but the second he gets alone with the two kids, Lucy and James, played by Lynn Frederick and Gary Miller, and he starts he's like, I have a question for you, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then he starts talking about how the house is very secluded. I'm like, oh, this place is haunted. Like, and without knowing anything about it, I'm like, this is going to be a haunted house story. Okay. And I love the kid playing Jamie. I loved him because there was something about his reactions to things that just killed me. It felt almost like he wasn't a child. Like an adult wrote the lines for him at some moments, and I have some I captured I'll play later, but I love to be like, you know, oh, ghosts. Well, we wouldn't be afraid of those if it was just like a sheet walking around moaning, but, you know, if it's headless with an evil grin. And my favorite thing is Lucy throughout the movie is almost like just done with him in terms of some of the dumb things he'll say, because as soon as he says headless with an evil grin, she's like, you can't have an evil grin with no head. You moron. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, she was doing the well, actually,
she was
before anybody else was.
And there's a great moment later when they meet the other two kids and Georgie calls out Jamie for something. And the look on Lucy's face is perfect. It's that like, see, I told you you're dumb. It's like a perfect sibling moment.
Yep.
But yeah, it's like from that moment, I was like, okay, haunted house, cool. And then it wasn't the way that you would traditionally think of a haunted house and a ghost story. But it was really interesting. And I used to, and I'm still interested in and intrigued by, but I used to be really into paranormal stuff. Growing up, I listened to a lot of Art Bell and George Norrie on the radio. So, late at night, that's a lot of the stories that you got. I remember someone, and I want to say it was a guy by the name of Dave Schrader, talking about paranormal.
He did the Holzer files, didn't he?
I think he was involved in the Holzer files. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He's got a lot of, in that field, he's got credibility.
Yes.
I don't know what that means, but in that field, he's got credibility.
Mm-hmm. But I remember, I think it was him talking about like one of his thoughts was, well, maybe paranormal activity isn't the spirits of people who have died and moved on, but it's some sort of thinning of the barrier in time. And what we're seeing is some form of time travel. So then this movie starts doing basically that. And I was like, well, hold on now. That's kind of cool. All right, I can latch onto that. And I loved this idea that they're ghosts. And even so much of it can easily be like the way the characters do it, where so they get to this house. Oh, I did skip ahead a little bit. So they get told, oh, there's a house out in the countryside. And it's got it was a rent-free caretaker's cottage.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the mom is a widow, and she is being offered to take care of this place as a full-time salary position. But they got to move out of London. So she's all for it. The kids are all for it. I like that nobody tells them anything about the place until they get there. It feels like this solicitor's office has gone down this road a few times. And so they're like, all right, we just got to get them out there, and hopefully they don't want to leave.
It's too far for them to turn around at that point.
Yeah. We've been gone long enough. Their apartment's already been rented. They can't go back. So, but they get all the way out there. And as soon as I see like this bus pull up, which I loved that, that truck bus thing that they were riding around in. And you get the classic kind of countryside person talking about, oh, there's ghoulies and ghosties and all sorts of terrible
Harbinger
stuff in there. Yeah.
It's the guy at the beginning of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's the crazy Ralph. Yep. And he drops him off. He's like, I ain't helping take nothing inside. And they get to the house, and before you even see it, all I can think of is like, oh, this place is overgrown. This is a rundown place. It's not what they were hoping for. And then you see it, and I'm like, oh, it's worse. Like, it's not just overgrown, it's burnt from the inside. Whoa. And even the caretaker's cottage was just in disrepair and stuff everywhere. And here's Mr. Clutterbuck, the not a partner, but he works in the solicitor's office, is kind of
calls him Sonny Jim. That's my favorite. One of my favorite parts.
Oh,
Sonny Jim.
You best believe I captured that. He's showing them the place, and he's putting on his best grin of like, well, here's your key. I'm gonna leave now. Hopefully you don't leave as well. Bye. I loved it. So now they're there, and they've been somewhat primed for this to be potentially ghost filled by the locals. The what was it? The mere country superstition.
Mm-hmm.
They kept saying. I love that. And then that's that next day, Lucy is out doing whatever and looks up, and there's two kids walking up towards them, apparitions. They're like see-through. I have to say, this movie very much felt like it was made in the 70s. But some of the effect work that they did do worked. It looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed because that shot in particular of, was it Sara and Georgy walking up where they're translucent. That's clearly a double exposure, but they did so in a way.
Daylight too, which is tricky.
Daylight, and there's smoke, like fog moving in the background too.
Mm-hmm.
The more like the second time watching it, I noticed even more so how impressive that shot looks by today's standards. And then on top of that, there's some really cool like dynamic movement of the camera in parts of this that I really liked. When Sara and Georgy walk up, because as they're walking up is when Lucy like freaks out and runs and gets James. And I did like her calling him over, and then she can't even get out the words, "They're a ghost." She's like, come on. And like dragging him over there was great. But when they walked up, there was a long take shot of Sara and Georgy walk up, and the camera is moving, and it does kind of a almost 180 degree pan around everybody as they're talking to each other. It was very interesting and dynamic and made the scene feel, just somehow more alive. There was something kinetic to it that I really liked.
What I enjoyed about this movie, and thinking about it now and talking about it with you, and I've always kind of felt this, but now I can actually put words to it, is this movie is for kids. This is one of those movies that is for kids. It's from a kid's point of view, but it doesn't treat the kids like idiots.
Right. No, absolutely. I love that. That was a thing, and we're getting some more of that now, but there was a period there where kids' movies did talk down to their audience, and there still are movies that do it. But no, that I think is probably why I had such a good time with it, seeing it for the first time in my 40s, is because I can understand and see where you watch this for the first time as a child, how you could latch onto this easily.
I'm 50. I'll be 55 next month, and I will take every opportunity I can to watch this and talk about it with people.
Yeah, you mentioned like a joy and a love of making it at one point, and I feel that throughout. There's something to this, and there's a joy of filmmaking, and I noticed in the opening credits. Well, first of all, in the opening credits, there was a name that popped up that threw me. Which was produced by Barry Levinson. And I thought, produced by Barry Levinson, that's pretty cool. It's not the same Barry Levinson. It's a different one.
There's another name that pops up in the credits. It always gets people. It's Elmer Bernstein did the score.
Yeah. Oh,
and the score for this is amazing. It is magical.
It is so evocative throughout. There's two ways a score can work. A score can melt into the background, or a score can really help inform a scene. And I think good scores kind of do both, right? A good score will be there, and it's like salt in your food. You'd miss it if it wasn't there. But then there are times where you want that John Williams type of moment where it makes you feel something within the scene. And the score here did that a lot, whether it was whimsy or a little bit spooky or whatever it was. Like it fit every moment so well. But yeah, the Barry Levinson thing threw me for a minute. I had to look that up afterwards. I'm like, is that the same? No, it's not. But Lionel Jeffries directed this, and he's got more credits as an actor than a director. He only directed, I think, 5 films. Surprises me because there's some like good direction going on here, and there's some good composition, and there's like all the pieces came together really well in this. I'm kind of surprised. Maybe he just didn't want to direct more. I don't know. But there was that moment with that kind of dolly track around the kids. And there was also the shot before all of that when Lucy is wandering around and she goes into the house the first day. There's a particular shot when she first enters the house that starts on the door, and then the zoom pulls back, and it's all shot from the balcony, and it's very voyeuristic in that it's like somebody watching her come into the house, because once it zooms back, it stays at that wide and just follows her along in the room. And I really like that because it reminded me of, and it immediately took me back to the opening of the movie, walking down that street with Mr. Blunden, but in a different way. Whereas that was up close and he felt very closed in that moment. She is now being watched from afar. I liked that. I liked that a lot. And that set, whatever set that was, that, because I think they filmed this at Pinewood.
I think so.
Was incredible.
Yeah. The point about when they introduce the landscape that they are on,
Mhm.
they do a really good job of setting up the geography so you know where things are.
Yes.
Because when things start to kind of go at a pace later in the film, the fact that you know where everything is because of this walk around, because of how they've set up the geography in your mind and done such a good job of establishing that, you don't get lost. You understand where they're heading. You understand why they're heading. It's one of those things that I think gets missed a lot in storytelling, visual storytelling, the setting geography so you understand where they're heading.
Yes.
They did a really good job with this, and almost no effort was put into it. It was just done.
Which I appreciate, because in a novel, let's say, you're going to take the time to explain the geography and where things are, and there'll be paragraphs dedicated to that then may get referenced later, or it may just be that you remember it. In a movie, you need to set that up. You need to, especially something that's like this, which is a one location film, because we basically go from their apartment to this house, and then we stay there for the rest of the movie. We never leave the grounds. So,
Well, there is the trip to the church twice,
true.
and there's the barn.
Yes, but the barn is at least still on the grounds.
Yeah.
But you need to know, like, where's the barn in relation to the house, in relation to the caretaker cottage, all of that. So I did like that quick walk around. This is a slow burn of a movie as well. It takes a little time to kind of get going.
Burn. I see what you did there.
We'll get there. Because it's like the first act is effectively getting Lucy, Jamie, and their mom, Mrs. Allen, is all she's ever credited as, and little Benjamin. I liked him. But getting them to this house and establishing that it is burned down, run down, in a terrible state of repair, and also creepy. When Lucy is wandering around inside the house and she goes into the library and it's all burnt up, and she's wandering around, and then she starts hearing voices. And my note at that point was, nope, I'm done. I'm out. I'm not going up those stairs. I'm hearing voices in a house that there's nobody in. I don't think so. That was bad.
She sees the vase.
Yes. She sees that. And then as the voices are going and she's starting to talk to them and try to call out to them, the only thing that would have, like, the creepier thing would have been if they said her name. But they didn't go there. But then the groundskeeper, what was her name? Tucker, just kind of says, like, oh, they're just kids. Don't worry about it. I would have pooped myself because she scared that poor girl, and Lucy held it together. I'm very surprised, but then was out. She's like, nope, back. And then we just cut to her later that night in bed. But yeah, it was very atmospheric, mood setting. And then we meet Sara and Georgy. And
now, I will tell you the one thing about this movie that drives me nuts, and it's the only thing about this movie that drives me nuts. Georgy says Sara no less than 10,000 times in this film.
It's a very Jack Rose and Titanic thing. Like, if you watch Titanic again, try to count how many times Jack says Rose and Rose says Jack.
Yeah.
When I covered that movie with Tom Merritt, I was going to do a supercut of that, and I gave up halfway through because it would have been longer than our episode.
Yeah. No, my only complaint is that Georgy has to establish her name as Sara every time he talks. And sometimes he says it at the beginning of the sentence, the middle of the sentence, and at the end of the sentence.
I almost wonder if that was something for the actor.
I don't know, but that's the only thing about this movie that gets me is that. Because now I've seen it so many times, I see the things that you don't see on the first few watches. That's the only thing that I'm like, Georgy, shut up. Just shut up, Georgy. You know her name is Sara.
Right. We know it's Sara. That's fine.
And we know you know it's Sara. That's the most important part.
But meeting them, and I love that we establish immediately, yes, they're ghosts. And they know that they're ghosts. But Georgy, what I love about this is Jamie says, well, then you're dead. And Georgie's like, we're not dead. You can be a ghost and not be dead. And it's immediately backed up by Sara saying, he's 10. He doesn't know anything.
See,
which
they
is
set
great.
The rules, they set the rules for this thing really well and really quick.
Yes, they did. But I love that because you could immediately, my horror story brain is like, okay, so he just doesn't understand that they're dead,
Mm-hmm.
which is partially true by the end of the movie, but also not, because in their mind and in their timeline, which is this time travel. So once you start thinking about that part of it too much, it all collapses in under its own weight. But that's fine. That's all time travel. Mark Granger played Georgie, and Rosalind Lander
Yeah.
played
Yep.
Sarah. I recognized her, but it took me a little bit.
I'm kind of embarrassed for you, being the nerd we are.
Well, in my defense, though, she's about 15 years younger here. So, but she was in a great episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation with the basically Space Irish.
Yeah.
And she was wonderful. And that's her IMDb picture, is her from that episode.
And when I interviewed her for Beyond the Playlist, she told me that one of the greatest joys of her life was sitting in Picard's chair.
Oh, I bet. She's wonderful in this, by the way. Both her and Lynn Frederick, who played Lucy, are great. And Lynn Frederick was about 18. I think she turned 18 while making this. And Rosalind would have been a couple years younger than her.
Mm-hmm.
But those two in particular, like Jamie and Georgie are great. And I really enjoy both of them. But it's Sarah and Lucy are the characters in this movie that carry it.
They do the heavy lifting. And I have to admit, the blonde lady who plays the fiance dancer showgirl,
Mm-hmm.
she does a lot of heavy lifting too. It's just in her own way. It's not the same kind of focus as the other two girls, but she actually does a lot of really good work too.
She does. Her character was very interesting to me in the way that they handled her, because we learn about her through Sarah starts to tell the story of what happened to them. Mm-hmm. And I'm always a fan of the discordant story where somebody is telling us a story in flashback and then we're seeing it, but what we're seeing doesn't exactly match up to what she's saying. I like that because it's, first of all, you got the trope of their parents died in a car accident. It just was their carriage flipped over because it was 1818. It was 100 years earlier.
Yep.
So their uncle, Bertie, and Mr. Blunden, the solicitor, become their guardians. And I love it because we get Uncle Bertie went back to living in London, where he became a big fan of the ballet. And he's at the lady shows, and that's where he met a dancer by the name of Bella, and that was Madeline Smith playing Bella.
And she did a lot of Hammer in her career.
Yes, yeah, and she is very good. The character, it's interesting with some of the characters in this because Bella is an adult, but they mention a couple of times she has the mind of a child, and she's played very airy. Which for the most part is just her kind of being a little silly. Mm-hmm. But at the very end, it got confusing for me as to why she was even acting the way that she was. I'll get to that when we kind of get to the climax of the film. Yeah. But we meet her, and then I loved and Uncle Bertie would have to come back to the estate occasionally to settle some finances, and it's him going in and just shoveling silver into a bag, hoping nobody. I love he swipes it all off of that end table. Some of it goes clanging around, and he's acting like, "Oh man, I'm trying to be stealthy." It's like you weren't trying to be stealthy at all, but taking all that and selling it. So he's got no money, and that's when we learn. This is when we learn that Georgie has it all, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Georgie, it's in his name. Yeah,
because Uncle Bertie gets married. And this is when we're introduced to Bella's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wickens.
Yep.
Diana Dors plays Mrs. Wickens, and James Villiers plays, that's Uncle Bertie. David Lodge plays Mr. Wickens.
And Mrs. Wickens was like a sex symbol. And for her to do this role, she, kind of put on a ton of makeup and played the ugly part, which was a big surprise for people.
I could imagine because I see her IMDb photo. It's very sort of Marilyn Monroe esque.
Yeah.
Diana Dors. Mrs. Wickens is awful. She's a terrible person, and I know she's meant to be.
Yeah.
She's just driven by the money aspect of it, because on their wedding night is when Birdie mentions, "I'm dirt poor. I have no money. This has all just been a put on." But he waited until they got married to tell them that, which I love. And he's like, "Yeah, my nephew Georgie," because Birdie was only a half brother. He didn't get anything in the will. It all went to Georgie, but it's in a trust that he can't touch until he's 21. Kid's 10. So they end up, what is it? He fires all of the staff in the house to try and cut costs. And Mrs. Wickens moves in to become the housekeeper, Mr. Wickens, which I love that she always calls him Mr. Wickens.
Yep.
And he was like a former wrestler.
Or boxer or something.
Or something. He was Wrecker Wickens. And this was another character that I do feel like a modern retelling of this would change this character a little bit in the way he's portrayed, because he's definitely got some PTSD from fighting and probably extensive CTE as well.
Yeah. He's not a well man.
But one thing I noticed, and I noticed this on my first watch, and this is a wonderful bit of filmmaking, is he's got like severe cauliflower ear. And it was at one point I saw that and I'm like, that's a cool detail they didn't need to do in this movie, but coupled with everything else and the way he's characterized, this dude just got dropped on his head a lot in fights. And it's a bummer that, because I don't feel like is as evil as Mrs. Wickens. She is terrible and actively wants to kill these children for their money.
Yeah, he's addled. She's evil.
Yes. That's a great way to put it. He is addled, and he just does whatever she tells him to. Or I guess if you ring a bell, he'll just start fighting. That was funny. I will say that. That not only was funny, but it had one of my favorite music moments in this, because they're in their bar, that they own, and some patron is like, hey, check this out. And he just taps on his glass and it rings like a bell. And Mr. Wickens immediately drops the barrel he's carrying and just goes into a fight pose, and it's like swinging in the air. And Mrs. Wickens comes over and just starts slapping him and like trying to calm him down. But it was that going on, and then the score did this. It was that bong sound. I laughed out loud.
Again, this is a movie for children, but it's smart enough that, I'm still taking apart the story to this day.
Well, it's a movie for children, but the main plot point is that Mrs. Wickens is trying to kill these two young children for their inheritance because they have a trust of £30,000, which I don't have a way to do a conversion and or inflation adjustment. That's a lot of money, especially in 1818, right? A couple hundred years ago.
And plus all the property and stuff like that too, on top of all that.
And all of that. So she basically realizes, if we get them out of the picture, we get that money. And she starts by just treating them really horribly. Like basically locking them in their room with scraps of food, and like she's trying to do it in a way that can't be traced back, right? So she's very conniving in it too, where it's like, leave the windows open, let them catch their death of cold. Then they'll be gone. Until the kids one night overhear her in a drunk state whining about how it's taking too long. The kids are fattening up instead of getting skinny, all of that. And so they write to Mr. Blunden, who we met him. He was the one at the beginning of the movie that set everything in motion. And they write to him, and his reaction was like, well, these kids are clearly wrong. And responds to Mrs. Wickens of like, yeah, they're talking about running away. So they lock their windows. Now they can't leave. It was rough, but like, it's so well done. It's so well constructed, because now this kind of middle bit is going over what happened to these two kids and why they're ghosts. And they came up with they one night wandered out. Oh, no, this is where another cool effect. They're stuck in their room, and Georgie is like drawing a smiley face in the dust on the window. And then the window starts writing words on its own. I liked that effect. I thought that was really, really cool looking. But it said, what was it? Go to library?
Yeah.
So they do. And the library nobody's been in that library for a while. That had inches of dust on everything and cobwebs. But there was one book. And I think my note was like, well, I appreciate the ghost dusting off that book for them. So it's easy to find. And they find like it's a recipe basically for a poultice, for a potion of some kind, to escape, I think is what they say. And I think, is this the scene you were talking about that wasn't in the online version initially, or is it a different moment?
The version that used to be in the Amazon Prime was edited for television or something, and now they've got the full version up because they've released this new 4K version.
Okay.
A couple years ago. But what was missing was the first time the family goes to the church and the kids go out into the graveyard and they see the headstone of the two kids that verifies that they died and the date they died.
Got it.
That scene was missing.
Oh, that does feel like it's kind of important.
Yeah, and it threw me because I know the movie well enough, so I was just watching on Amazon Prime. Like, wait a minute, how do we know how do they know the dates?
Yeah,
and it takes place in like April. It's funny because it's snowing when they get to London at the beginning.
Yep.
But then the whole movie takes place in April. So whatever reason, on British television, this is always shown around Christmas time. But it's actually not a Christmas movie.
I mean, other than the quick mention of Christmas at the very beginning when Blunden first arrives, outside of that, I wouldn't classify this as a Christmas movie.
Yeah. But that was a scene that was missing, was the scene in the graveyard where they find the headstone of the two.
Oh, and then they talk to Sexton.
Yeah. And then they also find, I think they find the headstone of the boyfriend too. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Thomas.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. So that's an important scene. I feel like that would have thrown me if I'd missed that. Because we have their whole story, but the story that Sarah tells them ends before the fire and anything like that happens. And she explains to Lucy and Jamie that, I can tell you what herbs to use to make this thing that can help you travel through time. Because they basically came forward in time to try and find help to get away from Wiccans. And Lucy and Jamie have been primed that they're going to need to help someone. And that's what ghosts are, is just people looking for help, basically. So they're like, all right, we can do this. So that's like so now we're kicking into the next level of the story, which is them making that. But that's where that church scene comes in. So yeah, that would have thrown me off. Plus, I loved that character of the old man in the graveyard. I captured some of his as well. So they make the thing, and they have to gather all of the herbs, make it, brew it up, and meet by like the next day. Because time is, and that's when they have this moment. They see, oh no, they died. And I kind of like Jamie's logic behind that, in a way. Like it's a bit of a rudimentary logic, but it's like, well, let's look for their headstones, because if they're here, we know that we failed. Mm-hmm. And then my time travel brain is like, well, yeah, but you haven't gone yet, so you couldn't fail yet. So, because when you go, you're going to change it. But no, I like the way he thought about that.
Also, it's just verification of the story too.
Yeah, no, another good point. So they do all of this. They make the thing. They drink it. And this is one where it definitely felt like a 1970s movie. Mm-hmm. The transition for them going back in time, because it was just a lot of crossfades and camera movement,
kaleidoscoping lenses and stuff.
Yep. Yeah. But it works, and they go back in time. And they end up, that's when they are in the stable with Sarah and Thomas, who Thomas has got a thing for Sarah. He's all about her. And you can tell there's a little, but I kind of like too, there's no romantic subplot to focus on in the movie because it's not important.
Yeah, he cares about her,
Mhm.
and we as audience members know, oh, hey, they're gonna be a thing,
Mhm.
or they are a thing, but it's never explicitly said. It's just he's there and he cares.
Yep. And I love the idea that adults can't see things, but the kids can. So like Thomas can see them, can
Mhm.
see Lucy and Jamie fine. Sarah can. Eventually, Mrs. Wickens gets there, and she can't see them, but they can interact with her. And I kind of liked, and I liked how it was done visually. Without it, we didn't need to have any kind of like special effect to it. It's just certain shots you could see them, and then if it's from her perspective, we just can't see them. But then them interacting with her, she can hear them possibly, or at least feel their presence. That was all really well done. But they're and Georgie is locked in the cellar.
Yeah.
So we're on a timeline now. We've got to help them. And it all does, I think this was where I got a little bit confused time-wise, how long they were in the past. Because
I
it
think
feels
it's one night. I think it takes place over like maybe 12 hours or so.
So it's later that night that that's right, because they go into the house and immediately Bella, because she has the mind of a child, can still kind of see them. And so they use that to their advantage and like half torture her, which was hilarious. And this is where, so much like Mr. Wickens, Uncle Bertie isn't exactly a bad guy. He's but he's not. He is more culpable than Mr. Wickens. Mr. Wickens is like a blunt instrument being aimed in directions by her. Bertie is just aloof and he doesn't really care about these kids
And
at all.
he's more self-interested. He doesn't really
Yes.
care about anything else. He's just interested in Uncle Bertie.
Yeah. So I found that very telling when here's Bella, his wife now, freaking out, screaming about ghosts and all of this. And the ghosts are telling her to let Georgie out of the cellar or they're going to keep tormenting her. So she says that. And Uncle Bertie's response is like to tell Mrs. Wickens to get Georgie out of the cellar, but not because Georgie is locked in the cellar. He doesn't really care about that. It's just so it stops bothering Bella.
And actually, I read it as not just Bella stop bothering Bella. It's having Bella stop bothering him.
Also that. Yeah. I feel like he's tired. He does not like her acting this way.
Yeah.
So it was just, he's not evil, but he's also not a very good guy. And then they're having dinner later. And this is where everything comes to a head because Mr. Blunden shows up and the kids once again are like, they're trying to kill us. And it sets everything on. So Blunden and Bertie leave to go to London for presumably some sort of matter, probably to sell more stuff. And this is where it kicks into high gear because now Mrs. Wickens is going to put her plan into action. And she drugs the kids, but has Bella do it, who just goes along with it because she doesn't know any better.
Also,
And
she's following her mom. She's just being obedient.
She's being obedient to her mother, gives the kids some tea that basically knocks them out, puts them to sleep. And because we've seen already that the library was lit on fire, and now we know that that's how they died. They died being locked in the nursery above the library, and it was lit on fire. And that's Mr. Wickens setting the fire and doing all this. And Mrs. Wickens is just kind of hands off, like she's got her plausible deniability. I didn't do anything. I didn't drug anybody.
And my husband set the fire because he's brain damaged.
Right. But at least Lucy and Jamie catch on, and I got to give it to Jamie here. He's like, I'm going to go get a hatchet and get that door open because they saw Bella earlier. They don't have the key. They tried to get the key from her. That was the one scene that very much felt like this movie was aimed at kids and was like it was almost like we got to throw some levity in here. And it was them getting the key.
Yeah, getting the key, playing with the vase, running around the thing, playing on the piano, all that kind of stuff. Yes, that was the wacky ghost doing wacky things.
And I think the reason that it stuck out so much was the audio for it. So they basically dropped all the diegetic sound and was just music for a little bit. And you even have Mrs. Wickens like saying stuff, but all we're seeing is her mouth movements. We're not hearing her. And then of course it ends with the two kids running into each other and tripping over each other. And then she gets the keys back and it was all for naught. So, but then I love Jamie being like, well, I'm going to get that door open. You keep Thomas from climbing up there because we know that's how he dies. And so he does. He goes and gets the hatchet, like knocks the door down, getting in there, and both Sara and Georgy are passed out, and he can't wake them up. And this is where he eventually Thomas climbs up there anyway because he's willing to die for Sara. And Mr. Wickens is trying to stop him. I kind of like, again, when we saw earlier how Thomas fell trying to climb up there. It just was the pipe gave way for some reason. And now we learn why it gave way. And it's because Mr. Wickens was literally trying to grab it off of the house. But they managed to get in there, and he gets the two boys get the two other kids out. But we have like a fight between Thomas and Mr. Wickens, which we don't really see much of. And then during this whole moment, I was like, this is intense. The fire is super intense. Like they burned that set down.
And they had flames right underneath the camera lens.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very proximate to the camera. So the audience felt very much like we were in it.
Yeah, it really did. That was not something, I don't think you would see that in a kid's movie often, like something aimed at children to go that hard with that kind of an effect.
Mm-hmm.
But they get Sara out, right? And then Georgy was left upstairs because of the fighting between Thomas and Wickens. So Jamie's got to go back in, but now everything's more on fire and the house is burning down. But Mr. Blunden has come back. And in the story, in the way that it went, Mr. Blunden arrived back at the house, but too late. And then like felt bad, felt a ton of remorse because he didn't listen to the kids earlier. And there's been this thing going on with two versions of Blunden. Now, the title made me think that he was going to be a much more prominent character in the movie. And it is a bit of a redemption story for him, but he's not in it for very long. And I don't know if the novel, because this is based on a book. I don't know if in the book maybe he's plays more of a part or not.
Actually, the book goes into more detail on all of it, but it plays pretty much the same. I mean, it's pretty true to it. I mean, movies are always condensed, but
yeah.
As far as, I mean, it's not a giant book. It's I guess we'd call it like a novella.
Okay.
But it goes right along with it. I mean, it's a very good representation of the book.
I do think, because that's the title of the book is The Ghosts.
Yeah.
And I think The Amazing Mr. Blunden is a more kind of attention-grabbing title. It just was a thing where I thought that character would play more into the story. And he's very important to it, but...
Also, the actor in it was a big deal. Who played him.
Lawrence Naismith.
So they're gonna make the movie his movie.
That's
he's
true.
in it.
But I did love the like redemption angle for that character and how he was sort of... There was two versions of him. There was the version of him up until the fire who was kind of cold and didn't really care about the kids all that much. And then the one that realized the mistakes that he had made and was trying to atone for it. And he was the kindly older gentleman that we met at the beginning of the movie. And there's a moment where a confrontation is happening and Jamie is thinking about going down to talk to the Blunden that's down there because, he told me that I'm going to have to trust him at some point. Maybe this is that moment. It's that like, here's my moment. I'm going to take it. And then Mr. Blunden, the version that he knows is there and kind of like, now that that is me, but it's not me. And I'm not going to see you. I won't be able to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he does come back, we get the kind of reconciliation of both those versions into one. And I guess he does some kind of a I'm going to absorb the fire so you can get the kid thing.
Yeah, he does this weird self-possession thing. Then he goes up the stairs, walks basically through the flames, gets the kids, and ushers them through the flames.
So I like that it doesn't try to over-explain things.
Mhm.
And it leaves it very open-ended as to what all is going on. I did enjoy that. But I also, on the first watch, was like, wait, what's happening? Hold on. And I had to kind of keep thinking about it. But yeah, the kids get out, except that Georgie gets out.
Yep.
But Jamie doesn't.
Yep.
And now Lucy is all upset. And she's like, I won't go back without Jamie. I won't go back before she wakes up in the present day for her. And Jamie is still asleep. Like she does end up finding him passed out by the front of the house, but he's in basically a coma. And as she put it, lost in time. Which again is this really cool idea that the ghosts are just time traveling. They're just moving through different eras. But in that process, certain people can see them, certain people can't. And there's this whole worry that like Jamie's going to be lost in time and he'll never wake up. But then he does wake up and he remembers everything. And they remember it all. And now they're all worried like, well, they're going to make us leave. We're not going to have this place anymore. And here was the final twist. And this was the bow on it that I really liked.
Let's before you get to the bow, let's say they do go back to the church and they find Mr. Blunden's headstone in the place where the kids was. And they're like, we did it. We actually did it.
You're right. Yes. And it's it's like this really nice ornate stone for Mr. Blunden, and this idea that he took care of his charges.
Yep.
So it totally changed his story. And yeah, they're all happy because they did save the two kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're thinking, well, now we're not going to have a place to live. We're going to have to go back to wherever we were because Clutterbuck shows up. And I like how Clutterbuck shows up and Mrs. Allen knows kind of why he's there to an extent. She got some kind of a letter, but the kids don't know. Mm-hmm. And we as an audience don't know. And then it's revealed, oh yeah, so the people that did own this house did leave 100 years ago and move to America. And that was a nice callback because Thomas had mentioned that when Lucy and Jamie first went back in time. You know, hey, I could go to America and make a good life for myself there. And we find out that Sara and Thomas got married, moved to America. And Sara and Thomas are their great-grandparents, their dad's great-grandfather or whatever. And the house and everything was left to them. And not only that, but they did well. And so they get 500 pounds a month in perpetuity. I did do a little conversion on that, and just adjusting for inflation without what the exchange rate was back then, it's about $50,000 a year.
Nice.
Not bad for just, living.
Yeah. I'd fall out of bed. I'd fall out of bed for less.
Yeah. And that was 500 pounds a year in 1918, which was worth a lot more compared to the dollar at that point. But they find out that it's all theirs. Everything is theirs. I like, too, there's a moment as they're learning about all of this that the kids say to each other, Great-Grandma Sara and Great-Grandpa Thomas. And I kind of like that because, again, if you really want to get into the weeds on this, the time travel aspect of it doesn't make any sense because if those kids died, how were they their grandparents and how do these kids exist? Yeah. But what I like about it is they're like, they never would have made the connection of Sara and Thomas that they met being their great-grandparents, but they know those names.
Yep, exactly.
And I thought that was a really clever thing to do there. It was really good. And then we also learned that the present-day Mr. Blunden was bedridden and all of that, but then they open up the carriage and there's Mr. Blunden and he recognizes them and remembers them, which was kind of a fun thing because it also had me thinking like, okay, so the Mr. Blunden, the great-grandfather Mr. Blunden is also this one maybe, but not, but I don't know. And I like not knowing. It's just a fun.
Well, because because Jamie asks him, which one are you? Which one are you? And he quotes the We Three Kings.
Yes.
Which is how he said that to the kids at the beginning of the movie. So I always just thought that was the good ghost Blunden that was sitting in the car with Clutterbuck by himself.
Oh, it could be. It's a cool ending to it, and it's really fun. And then the end credits.
I love the credits.
Unique in a way that I've seen lots of. Like I always love an end credits where they do that with the actors and they show them. One of my favorites is Ghostbusters, where you see everybody. But it's the cool thing that Ghostbusters did was it was all of them making the movie. So it was like alternate takes. This was kind of cool because it was fourth wall breaking, and it was all the actors in character speaking to the audience, thanking them for being there. I thought that was really cool.
It's very theater.
It is very theater.
And I always loved it because it takes specifically Mrs. Wickens and Mr. Wickens and makes them almost likable at the end.
Yes.
It also lets you know that no one actually died. As a kid's movie, it lets you know that no one actually died.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's reassuring for, especially at, young enough, the kids aren't going to be able to separate those. So then to get to see them at the end, it's like, oh, okay. You sort of prime them for the fact that it is make-believe. So I did like that. I captured a bunch of audio of this too. And I want to play a few of these because some of these
I can't wait to see what you
some
picked
of these
up.
are really good. So this one I captured just because it's way too relatable of a line. This is right at the beginning. This is Mrs. Allen.
So little money, so many debts.
You know what? Yeah, I felt that one. I'm like, okay, movie. All right.
I see you.
I played the bong sound earlier, but when they first get into the little countryside, just the guy driving the truck.
Ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties that place has got.
I liked him. He was a great Crazy Ralph type character.
He sounds like he sounds like it would be also be someone who'd be describing a part of Narnia.
Kind of, yeah. He really did. And also I got one of Tucker, and it was just...
Nothing to be afraid of, dear. Them's only kiddies.
No, see, that's more scary and more to be afraid of because it's not just voices in the house. Now it's children's voices in the house. And no thank you. I'm done.
Yeah.
I hear get out, I'm out.
Yeah.
I hear a kid, I'm out faster.
Yep.
I hear get out in a house, I'm packing my things and leaving. I hear kids' voices in the house, I can get my stuff later. I'm leaving now. I want nothing to do with that. The scene that was cut, that you said was cut out of the TV version of it, has the character of Sexton, is what he's credited as, Reg Lie. And he only had a couple of lines, but I really liked him. I'm a fan of the way, we'll say hundreds of years or 100 years ago, but I love especially older English where they will say things like,
That's right. It were 100 year ago.
It were 100 year ago. And then he tells them this kind of spooky thing, and he says, like, I wouldn't go to that house. That place is haunted, blah, blah, blah. And the kids say that they don't have a choice. In fact, their exact thing was, where did I put that?
Don't you go anywhere near there.
We've got to.
Got to? Why?
We live there.
We live there. And his whole tone changes.
I made it all up, I did. There's no such thing as ghosts.
There's no such thing as ghosts. And then as soon as the kids are out of earshot.
Well, there is ghosts, you see, because I've seen them.
He just doesn't know which lane to stay in. It was great. I loved him. And it would have, losing that scene really, it wouldn't have changed the movie for me, but it would have made it more confusing now because you're right. How do they know any dates? Because they keep mentioning the 100 years.
Yep.
So.
And it also puts a timetable on when they have to do what they have to do.
Right. Because it's
it's
tomorrow.
An immediate thing they have to fix.
Yes. We mentioned him, but Clutterbuck, played by Graham Crowden, who I swore I've seen in something before, but looking over his list, couldn't tell you at all. None of it really rang a bell to me. He he had a small part in Live and Let Die, but it wasn't like a major character. So I maybe just recognized him from that, and it's roughly the same era. But I loved just him in the office to start things.
You may sit down if you wish.
Like, you can sit or don't. I don't really care. He's done with these kids, and they just got there. But then I loved him calling.
I'm afraid I've caught you out there, Sonny Jim.
Sonny Jim, which is a phrase that I've used a lot in my life for some reason. And I don't know where I picked it up from, but I heard it here immediately. And he says it multiple times. He keeps calling him Sonny Jim. It's great. When they're leaving the solicitor's office and Jamie comes up to him and says, "Are you Smith?" The conversation there was great.
I beg your pardon?
Are you Smith? You know on the card. Blunden, Claverton and Smith.
No, Sonny Jim. I am Mr. Clutterbuck.
You should be glad.
Why?
No one could forget a name like that.
Which is wonderful because when we met Mr. Blunden, he kept saying Blunden, Claverton, and he could not remember the other partner's name.
Yep.
That young man. And then Claverton immediately says to Clutterbuck,
It is a silly name.
I'm sorry, sir.
"It is." But that got me for some reason. They get 500 pounds a year at the end.
In perpetuity.
In what?
For your lifetime, Sonny Jim.
Got to get that last Sonny Jim in there.
There's a Sonny Jim quota we didn't know about. Just like there was a Sarah quota.
Right. And then this, I just want to keep on my soundboard. This is a great sound clip, period.
All will be revealed.
Oh, that is good.
That's just really good. So that was Mr. Clutterbuck, who shows up basically at the beginning and at the end. I liked him. But then our Mr. Blunden, Lawrence Naismith, him I did recognize. It was a smaller part, but it was because on another podcast I covered a bunch of James Bond movies, and one of those was Diamonds Are Forever. And Lawrence Naismith is in Diamonds Are Forever. He's not a prominent role, but it was front and center in an early scene in the movie. So I recognized him from that. And he just has a very recognizable look. But he, as Mr. Blunden, I love the slightly absent-minded version of him that shows up at the house at the beginning. There's something to that where I feel like he is also time traveling, maybe, because there's little things like he refuses the tea. And he
Also, there's no breath when he talks in the cold house.
I didn't notice that. But now I'm going to go back and look for it because that's really cool. But also him being like, "Ooh, I've got to go." Like I'm on a timeline. And later on we see Georgy didn't drink as much of the juice, and he went back quicker than Sarah. So that was kind of neat. But I
think is really important though, because the conversation Sarah has with them afterwards, where it's just Sarah, that's where she's really honest. You can tell she's tiptoeing around what happens. And then Georgie goes back, and then she slips into all business mode and gives them some details that she couldn't give with Georgie around.
She's
so
protecting
not only
him.
was it a key moment for some really pertinent information, but it also shows she cares to not freak out her little brother.
Yeah, which again makes you A, like those characters more, and B, make them feel more like siblings. So that's very good writing in that moment. But yeah, Mr. Blunden at the beginning, as he's leaving and he hands the card to them, and you just get this quick moment of somebody wandering by the street.
Happy Christmas!
What? Oh, yes. Happy Christmas, of course. He's also says to
Wait and be patient.
which is what I tell my dog a lot. Wait and be patient.
When your dog is passed out on the chair behind you.
She is. Also, there was, I did like, because again, there's that redemption arc for Blunden's character
I have suffered for 100 years, tormented by my own conscience. Seems more like 1,000 years.
Seems more like 1,000 years.
And check out the score underneath it.
Yes, it's so good. It's just,
that main theme that they play is so memorable and so evocative.
And it really, like, the second I'm going to be listening, I'm going to see if I can find that soundtrack and listen to that more, because it is evocative is the word for it. It really is that. And in that scene, especially, you just feel so much for him. Mm-hmm. And then it's setting in motion, like, okay, so when is the version of him in the future somehow still him, and this is part of his punishment, is to basically live with the guilt of this forever. We don't really know, but I really, really enjoyed him.
But it also makes you wonder if he's sinister and had the whole thing set in motion. So he had their dad killed in the war so they could become poor and homeless, so he could take them and, manipulate them into the place. Ooh. And all of a sudden, you could get real sinister if you start asking too many questions.
That's true. You could go real dark with this if you wanted to. He's what caused their carriage to overturn.
Yeah.
Uncle Bertie and Bella are like kind of our comic relief in a lot of ways, and they're really, really hilarious. I love this.
Are we to have no privacy?
He is trying so hard to be like this upper crust, and so he really leans into the received pronunciation, but yet he has no money. And this is him saying this as he's lying on the bed, half dressed, still wearing a hat, sipping some sort of tipple, while Bella reenacts moments from like plays, I guess. I'm not really sure.
Or her burlesque show.
Yeah, could be that too. And the kids are coming in being like, Mrs. Wickens is trying to kill us. And he's not. He's having none of it. That's his whole thing. Can't we have some privacy? And even says to them,
Not in the mood for drama tonight.
I'm not in the mood for drama tonight. That's your response to Mrs. Wickens, your mother-in-law is trying to kill us. Yeesh. Pet names for your partner are usually adorable, but I don't know that I have ever heard this as a pet name for someone.
One more time, my little sausage.
I forgot about that.
That's a choice. It's a choice that he made, and he ran with it because he called her that a lot.
Yeah.
We had a Sonny Jim quota. We had a little sausage quota. It was a
Sarah.
This was another one too that Uncle Bertie says to her that confused me at first.
Au revoir, my daughter of a unique mother.
Au revoir, my daughter of a unique mother. It's a subtle way to be like, your mom's crazy.
Yeah, that's old speak for monster-in-law.
Yep. Oh, and then Bella, played by, again, Madeline Smith, who, much like Mr. Wickens, I feel like is portrayed in a way that you wouldn't do today to get across the same sort of an idea. But she does a lot in this when she comes out in her pretty pink silk, because again, you've got Bertie's like trying so hard to be upper class. So he's buying her all sorts of nice things.
Mama.
Okay. Come on now. And you've got, was it Meekin, the only other servant in the house left, who's just browbeaten by Mrs. Wickens the whole time. Just like trailing around behind Bella was crazy.
The thing with the mama, it happened there where she was trying to get her attention because she was excited. Mm-hmm. But then she did it when she was scared, and that turned a whole other corner where I'm like, okay, we get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that whole scene, because she comes out and she's showing off her dress, and Lucy and Jamie are there, and Jamie's like, she looks like a stuffed pig. I think.
Which is the sausage. I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, no, you know what? I didn't catch that either. Just flew right past me. But she hears that, and then when Bertie comes out and he's like,
Let who out? Who is after you? What on earth is going on here? Mrs. Wickens?
he's just confused. He has no idea because he's way too self-absorbed and just wrapped up in himself.
He's too busy figuring out. He only is aware of his own existence to the tips of his toes.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got the Wickens, Mrs. Wickens. Diana Dors crushes this role.
Mm-hmm.
She does such a good job at making you hate her with just so much. And it, like, right from the get-go with her on their wedding night, when she's there with them and he confesses, I don't have any money. Basically, got nothing, but I've got a plan, whatever his plan was. We never really kind of learned what his plan was, but part of it was just waiting things out. And the second she says,
That Georgy's got a lot to answer for, being only 10 and all that money going to waste. He's got a lot to answer for.
And I was like, oh no, they're going there. Oh dear. I don't like her anymore. And it just kept getting worse. Like, she just got worse as the movie went on.
Which makes the credits in the curtain call moment where she winks at the camera and smiles and waves. And then Mr. Wicken kind of does that kind of shy wave and bow.
Wave,
That makes them, it's almost their own redemption at the end, because you're like, okay, they're not dead and they're not all that bad.
Yeah.
They were acting.
Yes. And she just does such a good job. Like, there's moments like,
You got persons aiding and abetting you, have you?
aiding and abetting is such a great phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I always like that. When she's complaining that her initial plan, here she is drunk. She drinks a lot of gin, as we find out.
It's taking too long, Mr. Wickens.
I love a married couple referring to themselves as Mr. Wickens or Mrs. Wickens. Like, well, Mr. Wickens never says anything in the movie.
I'm going to try that with my wife for the next week and see how long it takes before she hits me.
Let's see. I'm going to set the over-under on 3.5. And I'm going to take the under.
Days?
Times. And I'm going to take the under. So I think 3, or by the third time, she's going to hit you.
Well, I'll try, and you can find out at Nerdtacular.
Okay. There was this noise. Again, Meekin, the other servant, is just treated horribly. Like, she's always yelling at her to say, yes, Mrs. Wickens. But when they bring in their breakfast one morning to the kids.
Breakfast, you brats!
First of all, she yells at the kids. Great, that's nice. And then turns around as they're leaving and hits Meekin as they're leaving the room. And I just love that noise. You can feel that. Also, again, with her, like, she puts on the accent that's very lower class, right? And very Cockney sounding. And but then every once in a while, she tries to sound more refined, and it always comes off sounding even dumber.
And wash them mugs very hard. Very hard.
Very odd, or
Very rude.
So, interestingly, the last time I talked about this movie, I talked about it with JD.
Okay.
And we covered it the weekend the Queen died. And JD made a comment that between watching the funeral and watching this movie, she felt exceedingly British.
I can imagine. This was, I think, when Bella is freaking out about the ghosts.
Me smell your breath. You haven't been in my gin, have you?
She thinks she's drunk. I don't know that Bella drinks at all. I think she's just, I think Bertie does.
Yeah.
And Bertie drinks enough for the both of them.
Yeah, I think Bella, for lack of a better term, Bella's just simple.
Yes. Bertie is like, that man is pickled.
Mm-hmm.
Like
narcissistic. He's a narcissistic pickle.
Yeah. He's narcissistic, and he's like Dean Martin. He's just constantly drunk. It's a baseline of drunk. I don't remember what this one was.
It's under the kitchen, Mrs. Wickens.
Oh, it's under the kitchen, Mrs. Wickens.
It was that snarky reply. I loved that. And the Amazon Prime version, because they put up like the content warnings at the beginning of a movie, and this one had violence. There's a little bit of that, but it also had coarse language. And I already knew what the language was because I'd watched it one time previously. But
coarse language.
It was this moment right here. And this is, again, Mrs. Wickens yelling at Meekin.
Yes, Mrs. Wickens! Yes, Mrs. Wickens! You skinny slut!
Oh, right.
I wasn't prepared for that the first time watching the movie. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Sure. And like, thankfully they don't overuse that, but but it makes you wonder what she's been up to in her free time and what Mrs. Wicken knows about her. Right. But it's all done as a way, as part of the performance for you to hate Mrs. Wickens. And it does such a good job of it. And so, like, the way I understood things as that fire was happening, this is how I saw it anyway. As the fire is happening, they all died in the fire. And Mrs. Wickens deservedly so. Well, doesn't Mr. Wickens get crushed by? We see things fall on him, don't we? I think we see him laying there, and then we see stuff falling. Yeah. Later on, and so the assumption is definitely that happened to him as well. Yeah. A couple other clips of the kids, because again, these kids, it's their movie. So Sara and Georgy. I love this from Georgy.
Why are you pulling a funny face?
Why are you pulling a funny face? Pulling a funny face is a great way to. I like that better than making. I think I need to start working that into my regular life. And I can't remember what he said to her that got that response, but I loved that. It was when they were going to test their potion. They had made it, and he wanted to test it. Because Sara was worried, what if it's poisonous? And he's like, well, why don't we just pour some into Wiccan's gin? And if she dies, then we know it's poison. And if she doesn't, then it's fine.
Suppose she does die. Good if she does. That'll be murder.
That kid is ruthless. Yeah. 10 years old.
Georgie's had enough.
He has. I mentioned
funny,
this.
we find out what happened to Sara and Thomas. We don't know that Georgie grew up to be a serial killer. Right. He was H.H. Holmes in Chicago. he followed them to the States and then went off on his own. What happened to Uncle Georgie? We don't talk about Uncle Georgie. It's better left unsaid.
You can be a ghost, but you don't have to be dead. He's really too young to understand.
Right? And, well, and then we had, I love laughs. I love stage laughs. This one is just the kids. Out of context, this could be very unsettling, especially if you said, hey, this is a bunch of kids laughing in a movie about ghosts. I got the feeling that when the ghosts would touch somebody, like if you could reach out and there was some sort of like almost like an electrical current between them, because they're like very hesitant to it, and then they all grab hands and then they just start giggling. So I feel like there's something there that, again, the movie doesn't go into, and it's not important, but it's like this kind of cool world building piece. Physical, it's just something that's implied that is, it makes you think about what they might be feeling in the situation. And that's all you really need to do is just think about it for a second, and then you move on, and you don't ask questions. You just like, yeah, okay, there's something there. What's this one?
That would be silly.
That would be silly. And that was the moment where I think it was Jamie wants to go talk to Mr. Blunden. He's like, well, maybe he'll remember what he told me. And she's like, but he hasn't told you it yet. He goes, well, maybe he'll still remember it, but that's silly. Yeah. I liked that. Because he says this right before. I had another one.
Mr. Blunden sees me, he might remember what's going to happen. It hasn't happened, so how can he remember it? He must remember something.
Maybe he's going to remember what will happen.
So I do want to bring up something about the sound in this film. They've done a really good job of mixing whispering so you can still hear it. And there's a lot of whispering in this movie. And so the sound design on this film is actually quite stunning because there's a lot of times when you do the whisper, it either sounds silly because they're stage whispering where they're actually yelling at each other, but just with a lot of breath behind it, or you can't really get it. And this movie does a really great job making sure we hear everything crystal clear, like the layers of the soundtrack from voice to Foley to music. It all works really well.
It's interesting, right? Because this is 1972 and we're entering into an era of film, at least in the US, I know there was a lot of that sort of overlapping dialogue and sort of this background din. There's scenes in Jaws, for instance, where they're walking through the city hall and the mayor's talking, and it's just, you almost can't tell what he's saying because there's all this crosstalk going on in the background. And in this scene, that could have been done that way because this is during the argument going on downstairs. But you're right, to the movie's credit, that mix, right at that moment, they dropped all that background noise so that we could focus on their whispering, but kept it there just barely audible, which is good because I want my mix to be where I need the sound mix to feel like I'm in the movie. I like that, but I also want to know what's going on.
Well, the other thing too is it helps you put focus where you need to put focus. So sound also, I mean, yes, camera pointing at something gives you the focus, but we're over their shoulders with them extremely in the foreground, looking over their shoulders at Mr. Blunden down on the main floor. And so they brought that, the way it was filmed and the way it was set up sound-wise, they were the focus, but they very easily could have been eavesdropping and they could have heard Blunden, but they didn't. They let us hear them, which again tells you the movie is from the kid's point of view, which makes this a unique story just because it is so profoundly from the kid's point of view.
Yes, that's a really good point. And it's, again, why I'm really surprised that Lionel Jeffries, who, you know, by this point had been acting for a while and has 114 acting credits, but only 5 times was he a director. And he understood, he co-wrote, like he wrote the screenplay based on the book and he directed this. And this was the second movie he directed. He had done The Railway Children a couple of years earlier and went on to do 3 other movies. But it's kind of surprising to me because he understands so much about how to structure his movie. And there was those moments of, I mentioned earlier, the way certain shots made you feel things. Like he understood how to use the camera and use the framing to evoke an emotion. And here is an example of him understanding the sound mixing and working with a sound mixer and getting the right people in the right positions and figuring out this is how we're going to move this story forward. And it's from their perspective. So I like that. I kind of wish he had done more. Because I think these kinds of movies, I do feel like are really important. And I loved, and I made myself a note to bring this back up because you first saw this at just a Saturday matinee. And one of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently is how everything goes kind of in cycles, right? And we had for a long time, the only way to see movies was to go to a theater. And then we got the advent of home video and you could watch stuff at home. But then you had broadcast television, you had some home video, cable television changed things. But then it would cycle back to there's, you know, now we get blockbuster movies and we get event movies to go to. There's this cycle back now in this era of unlimited choice in what we can watch. That's starting to break apart because we're getting the fracturing of streaming services. We're getting so many different disparate services. But there's also this parallelization of choice when you sit down and you spend 45 minutes deciding what to watch. And I'm seeing projects now and things where people are creating their own media servers that then will serve up channels. Or you're seeing even some services that have channels to watch of just, hey, it's all mythical.com content throughout the day, but it's just randomly playing. And I think another version of that is that Saturday matinee, that sort of discovery of like a theater is just playing a movie and you can just go down, check it out. You don't know what it is. You just go.
Yeah. I mean, I saw tons of 50s, like giant monster movies at that theater. I watched probably every Godzilla film that had come out to that point. This was what, 76, 77, somewhere in there. So every Godzilla film that had ever been up to that point. I remember I saw in 80, I saw The Empire Strikes Back in that theater. I saw the Muppet movie in that theater. That theater shaped, that one lone theater on Mine Air Force Base in Gateway Gardens, shaped who I am as a film goer to this day.
And I feel like that is an important thing that we're missing. It's why I feel like theaters can remain important. It bums me out so much that the theater experience can be so difficult for some people. And I understand it's not for everyone, but there is a different feeling to just discovering something by having it served up to you. You know, you go somewhere and they have a thing and you sit down and you watch it, or the communal aspect of watching a movie in a theater. It's kind of why I feel like comedies, there aren't broad comedies made these days to an extent that they were. And some of that is because comedy is very subjective to begin with, but it's a totally different experience to watch a movie sitting at home, a comedy sitting in your house by yourself or with two other people versus a theater full of people watching a comedy, because that laughter can get infectious. You know, I can remember, like, I love Mystery Science Theater 3000, but one of my favorite emotional memories of watching an episode of that series was we had like 8 or 9 people in the room, and it was my parents and myself and my sister and some of her friends and a couple other people. And it was listening. At one point, I was just paying attention to the laughter moving around the room as different jokes would hit different groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like that's a thing that gets lost now, is the discovery of things, and then that kind of communal aspect of it. So I think I was just going to say, I just love the story of like, that's how you found this movie, it was a Saturday afternoon and you went down to the theater and they were playing a thing and hey, became one of your favorite movies. It impacted you so much.
Yeah, no, it shaped me to the point that when I watched it again. Oh, I don't know. I watched it again just after the pandemic shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through the cast list and see why I can line up for Be on the Playlist. And Rosalind responded and I had her on and we've been, back and forth texting each other since. And I've listened to her. She does audiobooks now. She on this new release that that was in the UK, what company? I don't know, this one.
Mm-hmm.
She is on the commentary track with a couple of the other people. And it really has hung on to me ever since I saw it.
And it's just, there is some discoverability of things through, but it's all what the algorithms serve you up now, which an algorithm is just a fancy way of saying the computer chose it, right? Mm-hmm. They fed a bunch of information in and it spat that out. It's no different really than what you used to have and television stations had, which is they programmed things for you, right? Radio stations did that. I love hearing the stories of like, this hit song became a hit because the DJ and some radio station in California decided to flip the 45 over and play the B-side, or even played it by accident, grabbed the record, threw it on there in a hurry, put it on the wrong side, it blasted out there and people loved it. But so, I love those, right?
As far as algorithms go, I'll tell you my favorite story about that.
Yeah.
We bought a TiVo in 2004.
Okay.
And I had it record CSI and Criminal Minds.
Okay.
The next morning I woke up and it was filled with shows with dead bodies in it. The auto record feature picked up, I guess, dead bodies. And the next day my hard drive of the TiVo was filled with shows with dead bodies in them.
Oh, that's funny.
It was like an eager child just wanting to please me so desperately. But it took me years to train that TiVo not to record crap.
Yeah, it can be tough. Like there's more work involved in it. And I get that. And I understand that. And when you do shape it, it's great. And every once in a while, something will come across like my YouTube front page. I'll just open up the app or I'll open up the web page and there'll be something on there. And I'm like, holy crap, this is really cool. For whatever reason, it got pushed to me that day. That's how I found the band Ninja Nisu. Because it just one day, Heartless Scat was on my front page. And I'm like, what is this? And I listened to it and immediately was like, I need all of this in my life right now.
That's the way it was for me discovering Ren. One day just popped up with Hi Ren, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I now have somebody I need to track down everything they've ever done.
Yep. The other one that happened even more recently for me was Ando-san. That guy has been doing it for a while, but holy crap, like I was blown away by it. And it's not something I would have found on my own. But it reminds me of the days where we would have the Saturday matinee or the Saturday afternoon movie on Sci-Fi Channel or WGN Superstation.
Or USA. Captain USA? Was that what his name was?
I think so. But you also had like USA Up All Night.
Yeah.
And you had, Monster Vision back in the day when Joe Bob Briggs was doing that. I love that kind of thing because, again, it's somebody curating something and saying, hey, you should check this out. It's partly what I like about doing this show is either getting to be that person or having somebody do that for me and bring me a movie like The Amazing Mr. Blunden or the other one I will always talk about, which is Fish Story, a movie that I had no idea it existed. Stuff like that is great. And I think that is partly what we're missing and why some of the media literacy is so low these days is because you get caught in an echo chamber of just watching the same things over and over. And then the algorithm just feeds you those same things and it just spirals down. You need to branch out every once in a while.
Yeah, you have to hit the search bar and force yourself to find something new.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just turn off, like go into it in an incognito mode where it doesn't have anything shaped and just see what's out there. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. I get those every once in a while. I'll start a video or I'll start a song and I'll get partway in. I'm like, I don't know why this was served to me. I don't like this and move on. But there's nothing wrong with finding a thing you don't like and moving on from it.
Well, also it continues to inform your opinion. It informs your education. It informs, it informs a ton because then you realize, okay, I've tried this. It's not for me. It's like squash. I've tried squash 10 times. That's the minimum requirement. I've tried it. I don't like squash. So I know for a fact I've tried it 10 times. I don't like squash. I've tried watching Pulp Fiction 10 times. Still don't like it.
That's fair. We will disagree on that, but that's okay. That's fine. I just saw another part of it was like, it also allows you to maybe you find that diamond in the rough. You find a thing you didn't know you liked. You didn't know you wanted gent style guitar with rap over top of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But then you did. Somebody was talking earlier on one of the social medias about, because the night that we're recording this is the Academy Awards. And it was a comment about like just seeing some of the discourse of like, just because the thing you like doesn't win, doesn't mean your opinion of it is invalid or it's less than or any of these kinds of things. It's art. Art is very subjective. And that's one of the things I love is art is so subjective. I love Pulp Fiction. You do not like that. There's nothing wrong with either of those opinions. You've given it a fair shake. It just doesn't do anything for you. But you don't make it your personality to hate on Pulp Fiction.
No. If someone asks me, I just tell them I've tried. God knows I've tried. It just doesn't hit me.
Another one was, I think FilmSack just did The Boondock Saints. And that is a movie that when I first saw it, I very much liked it. And when I watch it, even now, I watched it a few years ago, I can see its flaws, but I can still remember who I was when I first saw it. And there's parts of it that I really do appreciate. And then I can, the thing that I say a lot is you're always a different person every time you see or listen to or experience something. So when you see something more than once, for you, I'm sure this movie in part has remained a favorite of yours because if it starts, you can transport yourself back to that theater in that moment, in that experience. And there's a power to that.
I have a friend of mine who does a show called Retro Movie Geeks, and he calls that cinematic nostalgia disorder.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to have to steal that.
Yeah. His name is Joel Robertson. He's actually the reason I even podcast. And he calls that cinematic nostalgic disorder. And it's kind of the rose-colored glasses of seeing a movie and knowing, even though it might be flawed, even though it might have its issues, you still love it.
Yeah. Or, I mean, and you can get that with music. You can get that with a book. You can get that with food.
Yep.
You know, you look at like a grilled cheese sandwich, but there's something, if you grew up eating those, there's a nostalgia to that. And there's this warm feeling you get from
That's
the
gastric nostalgic disorder.
There you see, it works. Perfect. We coined a new one tonight. Well done, Hammond. But I like that. And I also like that it can hit different. Like for me, I'm going to watch this movie, The Amazing Mr. Blunden, and I appreciate it and I really like it, but I'm not going to have that same level that you do because I don't have the history with it. However,
so I do want to ask you, so as you walk away from this, what are you taking? Like what like for me, I learned things about like humanity and life from watching this movie as a kid. What are you taking away now as a film watcher and as a film appreciator? What are you carrying away from this?
What it gave me was I watched this and I'm like, this is a movie aimed at kids that treats them with a level of respect and isn't afraid. It's why I love movies like The Dark Crystal and The Secret of Nim and the stuff that Henson and them were like, yeah, we're not afraid to scare a kid every once in a while. And it's that in this movie, and that it can go a little dark, but it knows how, it kind of knew where the line was. And I feel like as a kid, this would have been a really interesting movie to see for those reasons of you can sort of see that the world can be bad, and it is a little bit of cartoon character bad. But at the same time, it's threatening, and these kids have to work through it. And then there's this bond and this love between the siblings, whether it be Lucy and Jamie or it's Sara and Georgy. There's a closeness to them that I liked because it's not cheesy and it's also not this manufactured sibling rivalry. Like anytime Lucy was making faces at Jamie, that felt very much like a brother and sister thing, but it never felt like they were antagonistic towards each other. And so there was that. And then you throw in this redemption angle of sort of the grief and what that can do to you. And Mr. Blunden kind of trying to overcome all of that and set things right. And however long it takes to get there, he does that. So there was a lot of things to this. I want to watch it again. And I would love to find someone kind of in that sort of 10 to 13 age range and have them watch it, because I'd be very curious how it would hit a kid today. With the way
I showed it to both my kids when they were about 10, 12 years old, and they enjoyed it. They loved it. And my 17-year-old, she watched it with me this last time.
Because there's so much care and heart in this movie that I think shines through. All of the performances are really going for it, and the kids feel very genuine to me. So that's what I noticed. I noticed the care, and then the things that a younger person isn't going to consciously notice are the music, the sound, and the visuals, the camera movement. Yeah, there's visuals that look dated today with like the crossfades, kaleidoscoping type of stuff, but it's very effective still.
They only did that once too, though, which was smart.
They did not overplay their hand, but it's all stuff that gives you these feelings on a subconscious level, especially as a kid, that you can then appreciate later on, or will help inform you in the ways that you can then look at and verify things later on. And again, it's media literacy. You watch something like this as a kid, those are the types of things that you will then notice later on in other movies and other storytelling pieces that you don't understand. You don't maybe consciously know why you recognize it, but you do. And then you can go back and look and be like, oh, because this movie did that.
Yeah. So maybe we need to watch the remake, because I haven't seen it all the way through. I watched the beginning of it and I stopped. So maybe we need to watch the remake.
I would be very interested to watch the remake. It's 2021. Is directed by Mark Gatiss, and I think he plays Mr. Wickens too. Which I would be very curious to watch it because now that is a very modern version of what is a period piece. So what did they change? What did they keep? Mm-hmm. Remakes are always interesting for that aspect of it, especially that far of a gap.
Yeah.
And, the things that I see in this that I can timestamp it to the early 70s. And I know like sensibilities have changed. So the way you would handle certain things has changed. But like everything they do with the kids in this movie, I feel like you could still do today. Mm-hmm. There isn't any of that part of it that you wouldn't. It's some of just the ancillary things. So I'd be curious. But no, this was really, really a fun movie. And I understand why it's so important to you.
So I was about to ask you, so one of the things about this experiment that I've kind of learned over the years is when you introduce someone to a movie like this that means so much to you, what do you learn about the person that's introduced it to you? So what did you learn about me by having me watch this movie with you?
Secretly, you're a time traveler. And I think what it tells me about you is there's a joy of life that you have. And I feel like this really helped to galvanize that at a young age to where you look at things. I always feel like you have a very positive outlook on things. And I feel like a lot of that could have come from this.
That's pretty fair. I mean, I've not always been positive outlooks, but yeah, overall, yeah. But this is one of those movies that when I share it with people, one, they're surprised that it exists because most people don't know what it is in a movie. Mm-hmm. And then I introduced to a friend of mine like this, you're making this up. This is you're making all this up. This is gonna be something you shot in your backyard with friends on a Super 8.
Right.
And then they see it and they're always surprised how good it is. And then they're always surprised at the fact that I love it as much as I do.
It's the title and the fact that it wasn't available for so long makes it, and the era that it was made makes it all feel like it shouldn't be what it is. And it's kind of like when I go back and I watch something like The Apartment, where it is a movie that I had heard about a lot of, but I'm thinking, this is 1960 or whatever, and I'm sure. And then I watch it and I was like, it was so much deeper and it went places I didn't expect. And it surprised me. This movie surprised me in the level that it was. Because sometimes when you hear this, I've loved this movie since I was a kid, it's that rose-colored glasses of like, okay, so it'll be fine. But, and I'm going to enjoy it because I'm me. But I enjoyed it more than I expected to. And it was of a higher quality, both visually, audibly, and then the storytelling. Because it does, again, if you think about it for too much or you try to pick it apart, it's going to fall apart because the story does not explain anything to you. Yeah. But it's not meant to be. This is the
final countdown with kids. You think about it too much, it's not going to work. So you can't think about it. You just have to go in and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's just feel it. Yeah. Bedknobs and Broomsticks was the same way. If you thought about that movie too much, it would fall apart and it was very silly. But I don't care because I enjoyed the ride so much. I enjoyed the ride of this movie and all of the characters as they came in and out of it. I think were really good. So this is a great.
So Angela Lansbury from Bedknobs and Broomsticks, I forgot her character's name, but do you think she's related to Mary Poppins?
I feel like they're cousins, right?
They both went to Hogwarts?
Yeah, definitely. And I think Mr. Blunden, now that he has resolved his issues, can join them in that.
Being a portrait somewhere.
Yes. Oh, Mr. Blunden would be perfect in a portrait. He would. With that
There's
mustache.
An Easter egg they missed out on. There's an Easter egg they missed out on.
It was great because he has the mustache. He's balding, but he's got the hair that's like sticking out on the sides. It's just it's an amazing look.
Yeah.
No, this is
regal
a really
without being. It's regal and silly all at the same time.
Yes, it toes the line and it does it well.
Yeah.
No, this is.
I'm really glad you liked it. So, are you going to introduce this to someone in your life?
I would like to. Yes. This is going to go in that list of movies where I'm like, it surprised me, and I want it to be more seen. I want more people to understand that it exists in general, and it being available now. on Amazon Prime, at least as of recording this, helps that. But it's one of those movies that I feel like more people should see and hopefully appreciate. So yeah, I definitely will. Hammond, this is always fun. What have you got going on? You're one of the few podcasters I talk to that's doing as much or more than I do. So what have you got going on you want to let people know about?
Daily music headlines. I do that with Brian, and I do that with Eileen, and Amos and I do that every day. Beyond the Playlist is still up and going. We're more than 12 years in. The show's undergoing a little bit of an evolution because I'm just tired of booking guests all the time, but I'm still having a lot of fun. Soundography is in season 11. Brian and I are recording Dave Matthews tomorrow as we record this.
Oh, nice.
And then I'm working on The Art of Action with Neil and JD. And then I'm doing, a few other shows here and there for other people. But yeah, I mean, I just really like staying busy, and you and I are going to see each other again this summer, and we're both going to be Frog Pants All-Stars.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Yeah, we'll both be at Nerdtacular. So if you're going to Nerdtacular, come find both Hammond and me. And I'm gunning for that trophy for All-Stars. I don't know what it's going to take, but it's going to be fun either way. No, I love Daily Music Headlines is a lot of fun because it's quick, few minutes. Just get the base stories of what's going on. And then I can always, if it's interesting to me, I can go look up more and find more about it. And Art of Action is one that I've really started getting into because I love the magic of making movies, but I also like looking behind the curtain at making movies. And the fact that, they talk to people that aren't just the stars of movies or the directors of movies, but talk to people making the things and working behind the scenes. There was a great quote I saw not too long ago. It was Daniel Radcliffe talking about, he would always get asked about working with so-and-so actors on the Harry Potter movies, right? And he's like, yeah, it's great, and Maggie Smith was wonderful, but she was only on set for a few days. Mm-hmm. He's like, the friends I made were the first AD and the crew and those people. They're the ones that you spend all your time with. And I love hearing stories about stuff like that, or making movies, or getting into entertainment and kind of the stuff that you do, because I feel like general audiences don't know enough about how the sausage is made. Yeah, it's to maintain even bad movies, I have to respect, because the focus, the effort, the time, the dedication that goes into making anything that gets any kind of release at all is more than I've done. Mm-hmm. So even movies that are considered terrible, I have to give way more credit to than just it's a terrible movie, because there's a whole army of people who sacrificed time with their family. They might have gotten paid, probably didn't get paid a lot in some cases. Right. They worked to do the best they could with the situation they had, and they still turned something out for people to watch. Yeah. And I feel the same way about music. I feel the same way about books. If you can get to a point where you get something out there for the public to consume, you've done more than I have. And I have to give respect to that, no matter how I feel about it beyond that. I have to respect the work. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's that. And you know what? It's a great spot to end. I think it's a good place to go. So check out The Art of Action if you like movie making and you like action movies, especially. Daily Music Headlines, all that kind of stuff. Hammond, it's always a pleasure to have you here. I love chatting with you. And you bring me stuff that I just didn't know about. It's always a lot of fun. And every so often I get to expose you to something new. And so far I've had a pretty good track record of showing you stuff that you've enjoyed. So I do remember very vividly that I called Clerks an R-rated Charlie Brown script. Yes, which is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Well, coming up next episode, I have a swan named Emily coming back. Emily is going to come back, and we're jumping forward. She's never seen Johnny Mnemonic. Oh, wow. I'm going to make her watch Johnny Mnemonic. So we're going in a very different direction, which is always fun to do. The first time Keanu Reeves shoved a USB cable into his head. Yeah, that's true. This one for me is a lot of fun because I do have some nostalgia for it. And so this is me getting to show that to someone else, which would be a lot, which would be great. And I also have Dennis Robinson coming back, and he has never seen The Howling. He's going to watch that. And this is a guy who writes a graphic novel about werewolves, and he hasn't seen The Howling. I don't know what's going on, so we're fixing that. So that's stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks as well for this show. So if you enjoy this, I do it every week. Twitch.tv/TV's Travis for the live stream on Sunday nights. And it comes out as a podcast everywhere you can get your podcasts on Wednesdays, including a video version on YouTube. If you want to help me to do things like Nerdtacular and more stuff like that, I'm doing Wait You Haven't Seen live at Nerdtacular. I will be doing the show live at Dragon Con again this year. I love doing those. If you want to help me do those and possibly more, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/WYHS. My patrons allow me to do things like that, and I do have another First Watch Diary coming. I promise you, patrons. You have been infinitely patient with me, but there will be that, and I'm working on some more things this year I can do for patrons exclusively. So definitely check those things out. And if you can't do that, that's fine. Listening to the show is more than enough, and I appreciate and love everybody that does. And you can find all of that at tvstravis.com. Well, Hammond, thank you so much, as always.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. This is always fun.
And until next time, just remember to enjoy your movies and be excellent to each other. Don't set the house on fire. There's been a way you haven't seen.
I've got lovely fish, lovely mackerel, caught fresh this morning.
Lovely fish.